Hi, my name is Stan Summers. I have 25 years experience in animation, a great deal of that in assistant animation with Disney Studios, Disney Feature Animation, Warner Brothers, Universal, and many commercial shops. Today I'm going to teach breakdown Inbetween, and I'm at Cell Animation Company run by Rick Solomon. All right, Rick has given me this scene, which is an animation from a back pose through a turnaround and then into a three-quarter pose on the other side. I'm going to do the drawing in between 73 and 61, drawing 65. It's technically a breakdown because, as you can see in the charts, 4 drawings are dependent on a correct breakdown, 65. So the first thing I do with these cleanups is I do a rough trace off with a light line, and I try to do it as exact as possible. And after I do that, I put center lines in red that I know aren't part of the cleanup, but will assist me in this process of doing this breakdown. And so I do this so that what I'm going to create is a breakdown rough first. And if my breakdown rough is good, I'll trace it off and then I'll clean it up. So right now I am going to go to the process of breakdown drawing between 73 and 61, drawing number 65. I'm going to put them on my board. Now I'm going to start the breakdown. And the first thing I do is I get rid of my top light so I can really see as best as possible through this 2 sheets of paper. And I'll start just, since it's a middle drawing, I'll start just putting lines in the middle. And I'm not too concerned at this point that those lines are perfectly exact. But you see, like right here, I'm able to draw the 2 places on the 2 previous drawings, so I basically find an in-between place for that that's in the middle. And see, you can already see the benefits that I have of working rough, because I don't have to really scrutinize it exactly yet. And there's a lot to scrutinize here since this is a fairly complicated drafted scene. There's the bottom of a sideburn, and here's the bottom of a sideburn. And again, with the ear, I see that that's where one drawing's ear was, this is where another drawing's ear was. So I go to the middle place as best I can of that ear on my drawing. And I know from experience that that's the right way to do it. On this line, I can draw that line, I'll draw this line, I'll draw this line, and then I know that this is one that I'm going to save, because I'm not going to draft in all the bad lines. I'm just going to try to get the essential placement of this. Remember, I drew the center line on this face, the center line on that one, boom, there's the center line. And again, you have this little structure of the hair, this little structure of the hair, and I know that it needs to be in the middle between those 2 structures, and boom, right there I got the structure of the hair. And you'll see that what I'm doing is a rough in-between, or a rough breakdown, to be exact to what I'm doing. The eyebrows are moving in 1 unit, boom, boom, and that's what I do, I move in 1 unit. And the eyes are boom, there's on the bottom, and here's the center line of the bottom of the eyes. I need more of that other light. And that's the bottom of the eyes. And then I have this shape for an eye, and I have this shape for another eye. And so I find the eye that is a medium between a small eye and a bigger eye. And again, I'm on the back eye, and I find that smaller shape. It's kind of technically should be in the middle of those two. And you'll see I'm drawing all three places to get my placement as correct as possible. And boom, and boom. Sorry for the booms, but that's a comfort thing that I do to move the process along. I got the nose in the right place. Now I have this little shape under the eye, and I see what's hard to see, so I draw it how it is on both those drawings. I look at both those shapes, and I technically, in between that shape, I have this little doodad under the eye, and boom, and that is fine. And I go to the middle on that. And basically, it's really important that those middles stay as exact as possible. They're moving on an arc, and they're moving exactly. So if I have a large shape for a mouth and a small shape for a mouth, I better have a medium shape for the next mouth. And you can see they share an actual in-between line on the lower part of the mouth. And this one has teeth, and this one doesn't. If I had the exposure sheet, it would tell me what the dialogue is. So depending on what the dialogue would be, I'd have to do a mouth that was coordinated to the dialogue. But since I don't have a dialogue on my sheet, I just basically favor the teeth clenching side. Because this one has bottom teeth, this one has two clenched teeth. So I'm going to favor it toward the clenched teeth. But like I say, that in a true production, that would have to be on the basis of dialogue. And it's fun, you know, back in the old days, we would have mirrors at our desk, and we could have our own little creative approach to the process by looking in the mirror and making an M sound or making the sound. And again, you know, I look at the ones in the middle, and then I have this stuff that's technically tight in-betweens on that collar. So I'm going to go to my technical pencil, and I'm going to do traditional in-betweening on it since they're so close to each other. And you'll see in traditional in-between, I changed my flip method, and everybody thinks, oh, why is he doing the difficult flip method? And a lot of people in assistant animation act like that's the way to do all drawing in animation, but it's really not. It's just the way to see shapes better. It helps you peruse those shapes and the relationship of shape. So particularly in a tight in-between, I got to make sure that those shapes are good. I see these two lines. So where it went tight, where it wasn't broad anymore, I went to the technical pencil and shape animation. And I see on my rough, wasn't that clear there, but I'll be clear on this part. This is basically just shape animation, but again, I want it to be as best in the middle as possible. And then I see that I've gone broad again, so I'll go back to my red pencil. And boom, and boom, and again to the middle, and again to the middle. And even though I put center lines on the arm, I might not need them. But I definitely would need them on the face, because the face is going to be structural. And I don't want to not do a structural drawing. I don't know exactly how to explain that well, but in draftsmanship, you have to not only keep it in between, but keep it in a structural nature. You want your in-between to be just as good as the keys or extremes. That's a silly topic that I get kind of passionate about, but actually, assistant animator works with extremes. A breakdowner works with roughs between broad positions, and Inbetweener generally works with tight positions. So I see that went ba-boom, and that was basically that, and ba-boom, that's basically that. And so you see, when I have broader space, I just go back to the red pencil because that differentiates what I can trace off later. And there we go, up. And the hand does that, and on this drawing the hand's doing that. And so I need to be ba-boom right in the middle, and boom, and let's see, he's got the fingers out there and the fingers there, so technically the fingers in the middle. No pun aside on that. but he obviously used the middle finger to tell us where he's going. And I basically, I have a certain liberty here because he's changing the draftsmanship of the hand. So he's got a thumb there, he's got a thumb here. And so if I look at this thumb and that thumb, basically that's where my thumb is. And again, boom, boom, knowing the middle, boom, 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 knowing the middle. You see how I was a little off? So drawing those three drawings right on top of each other is definitely something that's going to help go a lot faster. And he has a little thumb as opposed to this bigger thumb. And again, draw through and draw through. And you see how far up I was? Well, I got to get right in the middle. 1, 2, 3, right in the middle, and bam. And he comes out this far, and he comes out that far, and he comes out that far. And again to the technical pencil, and bam. And I did this close-off line. I'm going to keep the close-off line consistent. I didn't do it in my trace-off, but I'm going to do it now. So I'm going to keep it down there. And it's basically an ink and paint filled line. So I'm going to take this bottom rough, and I'm going to keep that line at the same place. It's really not a line that ends up in the animation. It's not a drawing line. It's a line that's strictly done for, see, and I didn't number my in-between. Bad Stanley. All right, now I'm good, Stanley. I got everything technically in place. So you would say, oh, wow, now you can do a perfect drawing on it. Well, actually, I did all that work so I could do a trace in place. Now, I don't really need these roughs per se anymore because I have the cleanups. Here's 61, and here's 73. The cleanups are a lot tighter and stronger than those roughs I was working with. But now I have a decent rough that I can put in the middle of them. So what do I do now? I do a crazy thing called trace in place. And you can see that the whole hair design changed very little. So that makes the trace in place really easy. So I'm going to use the hair design as my main vehicle of trace in place. So what I do now is where I did my rough in the red, and basically I kind of, some people use tape, but I don't need tape. I'm just going to in between tightly this design between boom, 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 boom. And he has this little doodad. So I don't want to miss any of his doodads right now. I want to get them all in there because I don't want him griping at me, oh, you can't do an in-between, why did you work on my scene? And I've heard it all before. And I've probably said it too. You know, why are you messing with something that's good? But I have way too much experience, so I'm going to be highly scrutinizing of what good work is. And when I came in here, Rick showed me these extremes, and I wasn't happy with the extremes, so I altered them a little. Bad Stanley, but you know what? I want great animation, and great animation means I do what it takes to get it to great animation. So you can see that that process that I had of placing the ear wasn't exactly perfect because the ear basically traces off in the exact same position based on that hairline. One thing you want to do is you want your corners in trace and place to kind of line up in the middle. Boom, boom, boom. Just like with the in-between. So I basically did the ear and I did the hair. And now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do, now I can jump around, but I'm going to jump around to get my hands right. So my hand said it had to be out that far, my trace in place, middle, middle, I'm good. And so again, boom, 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 and away we go. And you see that I'm, you know, a breakdown. There's a lot of distance between some of these things. Anything with a red line had distance between it. Anything with a black line, I basically don't really need to worry about. I already did the in-betweening for that. So basically like that. And I'm just kind of concentrating on some of the little detail areas. And then I go to this hand. This hand changed just a little bit, not that much. And again, I got those corners in position in the middle. And I see that my thumb from my red ruff was out farther. It doesn't have to be just exactly perfect, but it needs to be close enough to perfect. Eric Larson, a great Disney animator, one of the 9 old men, used to say to me, there's hundreds of bad in-betweens, and there's 50 good ones. So basically, he's saying that, you know, you want to be doing the good ones, but there's a few options to get to the good ones. So you see I'm bending that finger up a little bit. And boom. And again, I try to get that in between. And it's my rough, so you know I don't have to really sweat it that it's not beautiful. It'll be beautiful enough when I do my cleanup. That's just the way of the beast. I want to have the luxury of working easy, not hard. And working rough is just a heck of a lot easier than working clean. So basically, do I like the hand position? Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. And you see I go back to that shape flipping method. And in the middle. And in the middle. Did he have a little distance? Yeah, he put a little distance there. And it's kind of this exacting process. You know, back in the day, a drawing like this, it was considered fast to do 1 or 2 an hour. But it's better you get a correct one, and then you can speed up later. You know, it's not so important that you speed up right away. It's important you get it correct. Then when you start speeding up, you're going to do it naturally, because you're going to say, oh, well, you know, now I know what's needed, and I'm going to do it naturally. So, you know, now I'm just looking at for the shape method, making sure the shapes look good. They look good. Does that look right? And, yeah. So, I got the hands. This hand doesn't look like it's completely drafted in. Yeah, that line, and this line. Technical pencil needs to be doing its thing correctly. Bam, 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 bam. All right. And so now I'm on the face, and you think, well, can he just go over the lines of the face? And maybe some of them, yeah. I can just, through flipping method, just get those lines in there correct. You see that there's a little bit of distance there. And it's pretty tightly in between there. And again, there. And again, that's just basically trace back area in between. And again, it's kind of going up. And this is going to this shape. And we're going to get that place that I mapped it, which looked pretty good. And where's that? It goes like that, and it comes like that, so it'll be there. And then the teeth are there, and there, and there, and there, and there. And I'm going to give it upper teeth because, like I said, I don't know the dialogue. But if I had my exposure sheet, I would do it according to what's necessary. So I have a little tongue and a little teeth. And you see all that distance with the nose. So I'm just going to not mess with that yet. Make sure everything around the mouth looks strong so I don't have to reconsider this mouth. Everything wants to be considered once and strong and well. And that's it. You really don't want to keep doubling back if you can afford that luxury. So I see that I got the eyes. So back to trace and place. I'm going to go right over the eyes. You see there's very little change in the eyes. And I'll just get those corners in the middle. And bam. And that flipping method, that used to call it the Belushi flipping method, and they completely overused it. Oh, that's the only way to do it. It's just drawing in 9 times out of 10, it didn't take them to the right place. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. At least they were doing something that was a correct part of a process. And when I do the cleanup, you'll see that's the only method I'll use to clean up, because that's where that method, you know, since I've done all this hard work to have a correct rough, you know, I don't have to fudge that it's not in the middle anymore. It will be in the middle because I say so. And it will be well drafted because I say so. And that's all there is to it. And I don't know. I think Rick didn't know if I'd make it entertaining, but I think this is very entertaining. We used to teach it all the time. And it's actually a very relaxing and enjoyable craft once you're good at it. It's not so great when you have 50 in-betweens that aren't moving, and you have to make them all look beautiful. It's kind of like, give me 5 assistants so that I only do 1/5 of the 20 or 50 drawings that are in-betweening, because then you really want to get paid for those hours, because you're sweating over the board, and you have to have them very exact, because it's hardly moving on a slow in or a slow out, and it's basically, so voila, turn off my light, and there is my rough in between doing basically what it's supposed to be doing. I can draw in the middle and say, oh, that could have been a little stronger stand. Oh, you missed a couple little doodad lines. He had a break line, so I'll give it a break line. Doesn't look right. So I think it looks pretty good, but the way to really check it that it's really good is I'm going to go back here to the scene. Where did I put all the rest of the drawings? Oh, they ended up here. And I'm going to take a couple of more animation drawings. In this case, just one, because there were some hand roughs for other things, but I want to know that my head is working. So, does that look good? Well, tell me, guys. I think it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good to me. Is it perfect? It's getting there. So you see I close off these lines a little bit to make sure that it's really, and I just keep flipping it. And because I have more drawings there, I see that the hair grew kind of funny. So, you know, boom, I just shave it down, put it on a diet. There we go, hair's on a diet. I see that the collar looks like it's growing a little bit. So, and it's like little fudgy things, you know, because when I trace it off, I want it to be easy to trace off. I don't want to do that much correcting when I do the cleanup. And that shape, which is kind of a weird little shape, and I see that it's a little off. Now it looks a little bit more on. So boom, boom, boom. Look at all the parts. Did that arm seem to grow? Yeah, maybe it grew too much. So put on my underlight. And sometimes these lights take just a second. And I see, all right, I fattened up that arm a bit. Did it need to get fat? No. So I'm going to thin it out. And I'm going to make sure that rough is as easy and clear as possible for my next phase. And I see that part of the hand had a little meat. I got to be clear about that meat. So there's a little meat there. And this hand went from there to there, and I got to be clear about that little angle. And there's a little bit of like a distance there. And you see I kind of favored the one with the curled finger. That's all right. Like Eric Larson said, there's 50 good in-betweens and hundreds and hundreds of bad ones. So you want to be in the ballpark of the 50 good ones. And here I go. There's my rough in-between. So Rick's going to give me a little bit of time to trace off my rough in-between. I'm going to show you how to do a cleanup. All right, I took a little bit of time and I traced off my rough that I put so much time into being exact, and I traced it off into a nice light line. And if I need to tap down that line, I use a kneaded eraser. So basically, what I didn't have on these cleanups, but I'm going to put it in there now, is that ink and paint final line. I'm going to put on my light underneath the desk. And, you know, it's fair game. They're going to need the ink and paint. It's going to need that close-off line, my close-off line, and then on this drawing, I'm going to do it. And so then I have a nice, neat package. The in-between is going to look like it's done just like the rough, and I can see they didn't go all the way down. So basically we have my rough, and we have these two extremes. So first, when I'm doing the cleanup in between, I'm going to look and I'm going to make sure that the stuff that's tightly in between needs to be as exact as possible. And I see I didn't put that shape, I'll put it in rough. So I'll just fudge on those in-between lines to make sure, and I'll use my kneaded eraser, tap down this little line. This little line's easy because it's very light and it's very exact. And so I'm just really looking for the tight areas of the drawing right now. Places where the in-between had to be very, very tight. And I can see he had all these folds. And I can start being very exacting about there's that fold line. And then he has this little turtleneck. You can see he didn't close off his turtleneck, and it's confusing me. I'm going to close off his turtleneck so that I don't want to be reinventing the wheel if I don't have to. So I'm going to play just a hair with his drawing, and if he has a problem with it, we'll talk with the director, and I'll say he didn't do it exact. I'm trying to be exact. Here's the deal, and then I look in this area and I see that this is tight in between, and I want them as tight as possible, and I'm using that flipping method to make sure that we're good and solid, and that's breakdown area, so I'm not going to worry about that. That's distance area. This was a curious thing that I saw. And does it go a little lower? Yeah. And how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then there's this little line that I missed. And that looks good. That looks good. Good enough. That looks good enough. And back to Eric's statement, good enough's good. I went too big on the eyelid. Shave it down just a hair, and boom, I'm going to favor this eyelid thing. I see he has heavy eyelids. I'm going to heavy up those lines a little bit. I see he has a heavy eyelid there. I'm going to heavy it up just a little bit. And he's got an underline, and where I went and I inverted it, he did it on both his drawings. So I'm going to heavy up the bottom. Heavy up the bottom. Make sure my little eyeballs are in the right position, and medium. Medium's more like that. Medium's more like that. And voila, it's happening. And his eyebrows are a little thicker than what I did. So this is what we call picayune. You know, it's they're dark. I'm going to fill in the shape, and voila. I'm going to fill in this shape. And doom, shrinking it at all, and he's got that little doodad line there, and I don't think I'm going to have it. And it's looking pretty good. He's a little round. I'm a little squared off on the nose. He's a little round. And boom, 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 boom. Just picky, uni, little. I see my line's dropping off of the in-between. Make sure it's correct. I really want it to create a perfect, drafted, well-drawn drawing. And it goes right there to the middle. And down. And the reason why I'm using the kneaded eraser to get rid of extra lines, this is not a rough. This is a cleanup, and it has to be clean. That's why it's called a cleanup. And there's nothing wrong with, I used to like to call it final animation, not cleanup animation, because not only did we have to animate, we had to animate on model and cleanly, because that's was what was our task, what's being asked of us. And so it's very exacting. It's the last animation and last drawing that you see on the scene. So do we have to be in good drawing? Absolutely. You know, what if somebody wants to freeze frame? We can freeze frame any drawing in production. They don't know how to draw Disney. Look how shitty these drawings look. Sorry for the epithet. It's the way cartooning is. We talk. Cartoonists talk. And should I over scrutinize that? Do I need to over scrutinize that? Or is it doing its job? So now, basically, let's make sure that that looks good on the top. And so basically, what was traced back? Was there anything traced back in there? There was tied in between. Nothing was traced back except this one bottom line. So that's the line that I'm going to make sure that it's right on the money. And bam, and bam. And so now I am going to clean up my drawing. I did all the hard work of roughing a correct drawing, and I did all the hard work of making it perfect in perfect animation. Now I'm going to get the top light. I can see it nice and clear. And I scratch in my lines, and this is just kind of rote. I don't want any double lines, so I make sure that the lines look good where they're not perfect. Do I see any other double lines? No. I've been corrected. Oh, you got double lines, you bad animator. You know, so I get rid of all those double lines. I just tap them down real nice and easy. And now I have the fun of just putting in beautiful lines. No longer am I worried about whether they're in the right place or anything else. I know they're in the right place. Look at all the work I did to get them in the right place. So I don't have to question these lines and their perfection. And I'm just trying to make a very attractive cleanup. And, uh-oh, I went double line. So I don't want to have it be anything less than perfect. And how much time? This whole thing took because it's a breakdown, it took an hour. And the in-betweens are probably going to take an hour apiece on this pose until you get in a lock on it, and then you can speed up a little bit, but you don't want to ever speed up past doing good work. And there's a lot of little doodads and shape changes in this. And I want my process to be perfect. Look, we're a lot cheaper than actors, even if we do get paid to do this technical stuff. I didn't bring my glasses, sadly, because that would help me have a little bit more confidence in my line. But I'm squinting, so I'm getting my right lines. And again, just going over the lines, closing off shapes, making them as pretty as possible. If the drawing is too little, tell the director it needs to be blown up before you go through all this. You don't need to do some painstaking process of all of this just to have the work scrapped. So this is passable size, but any smaller, and I would say, you're asking too much, blow it up, and I'll go through this whole headache of assistant animating, which is no headache at all, really. It's actually fun, because not only are we doing drawing for a living, but we're playing with cartoons, and the great thing about cartooning is it comes alive if we do it right. And somebody's going to come up to us someday and say, "You didn't work on that, that's my friend up there." And you're going to know, oh, I did it right. I made somebody a little friend on the screen. And you'll see, you think, oh, how can you do it without the other two drawings? Well, I had those other two drawings there for quite some time. So now I'm just looking for beautiful line quality. I had an artist once say to me, back in the old days, they'd send it to the Inbetween, and they never even dealt with it like an Inbetween or anything. They just put pretty lines on it and it worked. And if you're technically pretty much in the middle and you've got beautiful lines on it, nobody's ever going to question it. It's just a very fraction of time. For all this drawing, you can understand why they went to computer animation, but they lost something. Because this craft added something to the process and the education of good animating. So, you never hear me say that they made it a better wheel. One of the great parts of our wheel, they're just not up on the screen anymore. Nobody cares who animated any of the computer animated characters. Oh, Brad Bird directed it. Oh, Eric Goldberg directed it. But nobody ever talks about who animated this and who animated that. But they sure did when I was an animator. Milk Hall, Mike Keane, Bruce Smith, they all cared about. And I'm not just talking about the animators, the public cared. Public, those guys were like celebrities. And Disney cared. Oh boy, my 9 old men. The studio wouldn't be my studio without the 9 old men. Now I need my glasses. So you have to make sure that I don't got those darn double lines or messes. But you see, I'll be very scrutinizing about trying to close off all lines, but will I close them off exactly? I don't know yet. I'll have a little thing I do at the end to figure that one out. So, boom. And, I don't know, maybe, the lines, if they're good lines, they're good lines. If they get a little fat, that's life. Look at that. I see that. Now you can kind of slash it in, but you don't want to get offline. So, and we're coming to some type of closing on it. It doesn't look like that's a needed doodad. And you see, when I cleaned it up, my greatest attention was to the face, because that's where the viewer's attention, they're on those eyes, they're on that face. Even though, you know, the hands are involved, but it's a breakdown, there's distance on the hands, they're not going to study it the same way. They just want it to feel like it's nice to look at. So I'm going to try to get through these hands. God, I need my glasses. Sorry. Because I want it to look nice. Get the right angle so I don't get glare on it, you know. And like I say, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's going to be pretty close to perfect. The animator had those nice clear roughs. I want my in-between breakdown to be real clear. Acting. Rick said, I want you to teach people in between, but he gives me a breakdown, so it's a little bit more advanced than in between what I'm doing today. And it's a couple $100 more an hour back in the day. Be a breakdown artist. So you wanted to be good at in between, but you wanted to be good at all the aspects. So basically, now I have a cleanup. Does it look like it's in drawing? You see here, I can see boom, the side of the face. Now look at my side of the face. So I don't need to have that grow. And it's just a little tweak. I apologize, but it's a scrutinizing art form, you know. You don't want to not do it right. That looks good, that looks good, that looks good. Comparing to one over here. I'm just looking at one key, there's those breaks. There's that little thing above the eye. And he has that little thing above the eye there, so I technically need, I'm just fudging it in, approximation. There's just a little baby line. Mustache looks a little thinner. I'm gonna fatten it up a little bit. It's close to that, and it's closer to that, so I'm gonna fatten it on the downside. There again, I gotta be able to see. Boom, boom, boom. Does that look right? Middle. Boom, boom, boom. That's right up against the thing. And this guy, he fudged it, so I fudged it, but I fudged his drawing, so it's right up against that side. This one has a distance, a little stronger. And voila. Let's see, 65. Make sure that my name, whatever sequence it is, let's say sequence 1, and the chart. So I come over here to drawing number 61, and so I put my chart now 65 to 73, and basically I just redo the chart because I want my in-betweeners not to have to necessarily look over there. So they have 65, so they know that's on a third favoring 61. So, you know, they should be able to understand that that means thirds if I do 3 breaks. And this one's more in the middle, 67 and 69 and 71. And that's just basically going halvesies all the way through and halvesies. So it's just basically going like that. So now the final step, again, I take more drawing and I look at my in-between in continuity. Does it look good? There's all these cleanups. There's my in-between. Do I see anything swirling? It's technically, it's a little fudgy. But believe it or not, people like my work because I pretty much deliver it perfect. Sing a little. Cartoon songs are fun to sing. And they help in cartooning. So, singing SpongeBob SquarePants. It's not gonna hurt. I like it. I like it. Does that look right? That looks right. Does that look right? That looks right. Does that look right? Yeah, right enough. I gave it a little bit of a club thumb. He has more shape in his thumb. Little tweaks, just a little bit of drastic shape. But nobody's going to really look at, like I say, the hands are secondary. That's not where the eye is. You might have a producer that doesn't understand your process, and they'll be going, hey, you know, hey, look at this part, look at this. Nobody's going to be looking at the part. They're going to be looking at the face, and they're going to want just the flavor that you've got it pinned down. And if we get it pinned down, I'd say pretty darn good. The very, very, very last thing, because you never know when they're going to come back at you and they're going to say, well, one, they're going to say, you didn't close off your lines, or something. We're going to turn on the underlight, and we're going to make sure that with the underlight, that we can see that we closed off all lines, because a lot of times, when you're doing this process, you might have little breaks in lines, which screws up the ink and painter. You know, it's just part of the process. And again, one more final flip, and then I can write off that breakdown. I know the breakdown's good, so the in-betweener who does those 4 other drawings is going to have to live up to what I did. And I see sometimes there might be a little tweak. And I tend to kind of like just watch it through feelings. And tight. And you know, I see that, you know, in this scenario, the animator went from having that much neck to no neck, and then back again to neck, and I'm not going to fudge that. That's what the assistant chose to do. Whether it was right or wrong on those extremes, it was too clear. So you know, I in between through it. But you know what I'm seeing, because of the person working on extremes, he's creating this little thing in the neck, but it's a minor thing and it's fun. Animation isn't perfect, but that's pretty darn perfect in between. Breakdown. So thank you very much. Anyways, thanks for watching the video. This is how you do a breakdown drawing in a full feature style animation.